Hey y'all, what's up? We are back with another episode. I'm actually double recording today because I just feel behind. So, trying to stay ahead, trying to be a good steward of this and not let so much time go by between each episode. So, today I want to read Proverbs 31. Yes. So I'm chuckling and I'm laughing because for me, when I was like a young teenager, before I actually like sat down and read like through Proverbs 31 and all of it, not just one isolated little blurb of it, I was the most skeptic, cringed out, like everyone would be like, she's fearfully and wonderfully made, laughs with no fear of the future, like, because there was just a very specific narrative and image of like what the Proverbs 31 woman was. And to me, it was a little bit biased and just very one way. So I used to cringe at it every time I see it. But now we have matured. We have actually read through, obviously. And I have not thought that for a very long time. But yeah, so it just makes me chuckle though every time because I can like envision in my mind the Instagram like posts of like women like in the fields of like sunflowers, just like whatever. I love it. It's great. Just when I was like 13, I was like, what? This is like, I don't see me in that. I don't see that. That I don't feel like that's me. Anyways, so all that childish stuff out the way. So this passage really is just very cut and dry. Like it's just very clear of what a wife and a woman of noble character is to be. Anyone that seeks to be a wife one day, this is a blueprint of what that looks like, what a noble character looks like. So let's just read it all the way through. A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it's still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of the earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. What is she, a night trader? Sorry. Verse 19, in her hands she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple, and her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children are raised and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate, at the same city gate that where her husband is well respected and whatnot. So, yeah, I believe that a woman of God, she truly can do it all. This is such an empowerment for women. Like when you look at this, I want to say like 50% of this is exemplifying that she owns land. She's in the realm of real estate. She is in the realm of having her own income from those things. She makes and sells things. And her tradings are profitable. So she's smart. She is an entrepreneur, and she provides for her family in a way. And she also tends for her family. She tends to the household. She does it all. And I think that when you do it God's way, you really can do it all. When you are sensitive to doing what God has called you to do, how he's called you to do it, you can do it all. A lot of times in the Christian circles, a lot of people have gotten it backwards, where they look at the flow of how God has entrusted a husband to be the leader. And I liken it to, like, he's the team captain. Like, who I am picking to be my team captain. When people are looking for a husband, who would you choose as your team captain? Because they are submitted to God, and then I am submitted to the team captain. But we are a team. We are a partnership. We are team players. And the process of marriage is becoming one. In Ephesians 5:21, when the Bible talks about the roles of a husband and of a wife, it starts with, submit yourselves one to another because of your reverence for Christ. So we are now in a union where we have chose one another. I have no issue submitting to someone who I chose. Hopefully, right? That's the goal. That should be the whole goal. Because I trust you and you trust me. And that's what this is saying. A lot of times in other denominations or thoughts of theology where women are still viewed as subpar or less than, it's just not in line with what the Bible actually teaches. So not going to go into all of that today, but a husband trusts his wife. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. It's clear. When you are in a partnership with somebody, you should have full confidence that they are in line with the vision. So I chose my husband to be my husband because of what his direction and vision was. I chose Ilder as my husband, and I have no issue submitting to him because our visions are in line. Our visions are in sync, and that is why we even started dating in the first place, because we talked about what we each wanted for the future, and I saw what his vision and direction was, and it was in the things of God. It was rooted and directed by God, and it was also it was something that I can say, I can partner with you, and I have no issue submitting to the direction that you're going to ultimately lead us and our family because you're the team captain. I have no issue doing that, and that was my choice. And same as Ilder trusts me, and my husband trusts me, that our visions are in sync and that I'm in line with the vision that I said I would be in line with, right? And so husbands should have a full trust and confidence in their wife to be able to make decisions that are in line with the unified vision, and that there's no lording over as if the wife is less than, or can't think for herself, or can't have an opinion, or can't make decisions. Because ultimately, if that is the case, you don't trust your wife. You don't trust her. And that is something that in Proverbs 31, her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. In a marriage dynamic, in a husband and wife dynamic, when you enter that union of becoming one, you are supporting each other. You are there to serve one another, and there is no lesser value partner. There is a flow of leadership, though. husbands and wives, they make the choice to submit to one another in their roles that God has designed them to be in. But the role of a wife, of a noble character, is not, there's nothing wrong with whether you are an entrepreneur or whether you are a stay-at-home full-time mom or stay-at-home wife, and you are taking on the roles of like a full-time house cleaner or like childcare, like all that kind of stuff. I think because there was like a video breakdown of this. I remember seeing it somewhere, where like when you do look at the total like income of like a stay-at-home mom, of all of the jobs that, if someone is a working parent and they pay for childcare, or they pay for housekeeper and cleaner and laundry service, or like whatever, I think it was like $200,000 a year, factoring in like also takeout, whatever. So all that to say, a wife of noble character is not lazy. She does not eat the bread of idleness. So in all that she is doing, or anything that she is doing, she is not eating the bread of idleness. We're not just saying, oh, well, I don't have to do anything because my husband provides for me. My husband takes care of all of the things and all of the bills and all of this thing, and we're just idle and just, we don't do anything. Like, no, that's actually the exact opposite of what a biblical woman is to do. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. She does all of these things, and like I said, when you do it God's way, you can be successful. You can do it all truly. Like, I see people do it all the time. They run a business and they are also a full-time mom and a full-time caregiver, and they have such a blessed and beautiful life and a fruitful life because they do it God's way. They're not idle, they're not lazy, and not to say that, like, I'm not saying that if you don't have a business that you're lazy. Absolutely not. That is not what I'm saying. Please don't hear that. But I think that there's sometimes a very specific narrative that says, well, to be a true woman of God, you just have to stay home with the kids. You just have to be the homemaker. And that's not fully true. Like, that's not all there is to it. There is so much more. And don't be limited by other people's perception of a godly woman and a Proverbs 31 woman. If that's what they want for their spouse and that's what they seek for their wife, then they will find that wife. And there's nothing wrong with desiring that. There's nothing wrong with even with doing that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Because also, too, we do live in a society where in the world, if you don't have a business and you want to be a stay-at-home mom, you want to homeschool your kids, you want to be the homemaker, that's then viewed in a more negative light by society, which that's also incorrect too, because it says it here that she tends to the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. She does all of these things for her family. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She does all of these things for her family and for those around her. Below it also says, she opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. So in different seasons of life, God will call you to what he wants you to focus on and do. Like, not every season of life is going to look like doing all of these things at the same time, and like, that's not what I'm saying. So you have to know the voice of God for yourself, and you have to know what he is commissioning you to do personally as an individual and as a wife and as a woman of God. And when you do it his way, he will equip you with all that you need, all of the strength and the energy that you need. And you can be hopeful and laugh at the days to come. So I think that when we look at what a woman of God is they're someone to be valued. Their work will speak for them. Their diligency in what they pour their hands into and their time into and their focus into will bring praise, and will bring all that it needs to bring. It'll bring the fruit that it needs to bring. Personally, I always knew that for myself that I wanted to run a business, small business, big business, whatever. Every business starts small. So I knew that was always just in me. An entrepreneurial mindset and just bend had always been in me, and I think that's why at such a young age I used to scoff at the stereotypical Proverbs 31 woman, because it had never actually been fully laid out what that actually was. So I never knew that the Proverbs 31 woman was a business owner, had her own income, provided for her family. She provided for her family and those around her. She did. And sure, the ultimate responsibility of providing is on the husband, but it's clear that the wife provided. There was no accurate, representation, at least at that point, when I was very young, that I had seen. So that's why I used to kind of laugh at it. And that was just a result of, at that point in time, I didn't read this passage for myself, so I didn't know. Then when I actually read it, I was like, wait a second. Nobody talks about this. Nobody highlights the 50% of the passage where it's saying that she's a hard worker, that she is an individual outside of just what her husband's responsibilities are and who her husband is. She has her whole own thing going on. Now, that all of that stuff obviously has to be in line with the unified vision of the marriage. It has to be unified, and obviously at the end of the day, I'm not going to do or act in a way that steps outside of the vision and the direction that we are going, that I've agreed and subscribed to. There's something to say for both ends of the extremes of being a go-getter, CEO, desiring entrepreneurial mindset, and also being the stay-at-home mom, caretaker, homemaker, all of those things, homesteader, that kind of life. I think that in either end of the spectrum, if you are neglecting areas in this that we are being called to be diligent and good stewards in, then I think that we're missing it. So and that's why I say when you do it God's way, you really can do it all. But when you're not doing it God's way, that's when it just doesn't work. It's a struggle. God's burden is easy and light, so that is why there's a different grace for it. There's a different empowerment for it. But if you are trying to force something that God's not calling you to do in that season, like I've said before, you're not going to have the empowerment for it. You're not going to have the grace for it, and you're going to be doing it solely in your own strength, and it's not going to feel good. And ultimately, it's not going to be long lasting unless you really, really force it. But it's not going to be enjoyable, and it's not going to be fruitful. That's why I say you can't neglect one of these areas. You can't just be a homemaker and stay home mom and whatever and be lazy. Like, no, like you're not then like taking advantage of the hard work that your husband is doing to provide for your family and just sitting at home all day doing nothing and whatever, like not actually tending to your kids, what, like, so we can't be lazy, and at the same time we can't let, if you own a business and if you run a company and you are an entrepreneur and you work and all of this stuff, you can't let that take priority over your home either. So that's what I mean when there's two ends of the spectrum. There needs to be a holy balance. And that's why I say you can only do it all in God's strength and in God's way. Because God has called us to be good stewards of all that we have been entrusted with and all that we are responsible over. So being led by him and knowing when a season has come to an end or when a new season is about to begin. And I think that it is really encouraging, though, reading this, because it's a true empowerment to women. And I know that in a like feminist culture now, what people think is feminist actually isn't. But this truly is supporting women. This truly is the true version of feminism, because it's laid out that we are empowered, that we are strong, that we are more than capable to handle the tasks, that we are built for this, and that we are equipped to do these things. And that, I think, coming from our Creator is the biggest empowerment that we could ever have, that we could ever get. So be encouraged today that you are strong, that you are equipped for the task of being a woman and a wife of noble character, and it is all possible through God's strength and when you do it God's way. And see y'all in the next one.